Retromaniac Game Review, Retromaniac Game Review, Retromaniac Game Review, giving off nostalgia, retro power.
Hello, beat 'em up fans! It's been several weeks now since the Rocket Raccoon and She-Hulk character reveal trailer dropped for Marvel Cosmic Invasion. And even more recently, gameplay footage has surfaced from the Summer Games Festival. I also came across a few developer interviews, bringing new light and new details about Marvel Cosmic Invasion. So let's give a huge shout out to mxdwnvideo, Shacknews Interviews, and OnPoint for Gamers. Links to their videos in the description below. Let's hear what the developers had to say.
So, classic beat 'em up moves.
Yep.
You double tap the sprint, you can charge your melee attack. Every playable character has a different power attack. Like Spidey, some of them are ammo, so you only have like 3 or 5.
Gotcha.
They regen with time. Some dodge, some block, depending on the end. Some can fly, so you double tap to fly, you get out of flight mode by pressing A, and all of them have special attacks, obviously. And what you experienced already, you can swap from like the 2 heroes you have. But this is where like the game really comes special.
Okay.
The swap dynamic, the combo assist, the power assist, the tackle assist. So, and when you're really in trouble, you can hold. You hold left, and then you press right to and both characters will do their assist.
Okay.
So this is where it gets
That's dope. All right.
crazy on screen. So the most difficult thing in Marvel Cosmic Invasion is picking your 2 characters. So you'll have 15 to choose from.
Nice.
It is my great pleasure to be here with Yannick from Tribute Games. Yannick, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
There's 15 total, is my understanding, some of which not announced yet.
For something like Marvel Cosmic Invasion, we have 15 characters, and we wanted to make them still accessible that a young kid can play, but we wanted to make them feel different. So Cap doesn't fight like Venom, who doesn't fight like Wolverine, who doesn't fight like Spider-Man, who doesn't fight like Playable. We wanted the characters to be colorful and separate and as expressive and unique as they are in comic books.
Fred Gemus, and I'm a game director on Marvel Cosmic Invasion.
Is it difficult in a 2D brawler to make these characters feel different from just, because you're doing a lot of smashing, right? You're doing a lot of combos, but make them feel different in terms of how they hit, how long their combo strings are, and just how they play? Because it can be very difficult in a 2D environment to give that differential. I'm thinking about like X-Men, that didn't really have any difference, you just kind of all hit.
It's obviously a lot of work because, you know, especially when you have 15 playable characters, you need to figure out like how they behave. And the thing that we tried to stick to the most was making sure that these superheroes are expressing themselves as they would like in the comics, in the cartoons, in the stuff from the 90s era of the Marvel universe. And at the end of the day, it's all like, you know, fine-tuning, making sure that all of them are unique, and then going brainstorming with our animators to make sure that they all look amazing and, you know, fun to play.
But of the 15 that are there so far, are they all available right at the start of the game?
There's going to be a story mode where some of these characters will appear as bosses first, and then you sort of unlock them after you've beaten them as boss. But if you play the arcade mode, I think you'll have them all in a row ready to play. So yeah.
Some of these bosses that I see in your game are like, they're animated, but like, how easy would it be to turn them into a playable character?
That's a great question. Like, I mean, it depends. It depends. We'll see, but again, who knows?
Well, because like you have Taskmaster in the game too.
Yeah, we're a big fan of Taskmaster as well, and we wanted to have like the classic version with the suit. But yeah, maybe like again, like I said, we'll have more stuff to announce, but we could potentially maybe have these characters being playable.
Is this about on the same level of time, or is this bigger or larger game? How does this compare?
The game will have like 15 levels with 15 bosses, so there's those larger vistas, like they're gonna have more animation with cutscenes and characters happening in there, and also a bigger playable roster.
How do you guys decide who you're picking, just in general? Is it like a tier list? Is it a voting system? Or is it specifically like Disney has to be like yes or no?
Obviously, picking the characters in the game was the biggest challenge because there's so many superheroes to pick from. And I mean, I have my favorites. Everybody have favorites. So even though we had many, we had to choose. And so Of course, we have some fan favorites like Spider-Man, Captain America, but we also wanted to have characters that would match the tone and the universe we're tackling. So Nova, Phyla-Vell are in there. And many new surprises. Every characters we try to have in the game, we also think of them like in terms of gameplay and how we can bring like fresh new ideas to the table. I mean, at the end of the day, we could have probably have a roster of 100 characters easily, but we would probably explode.
In this particular thing, we have Nova and Phyla-Vell, which are characters that a lot of people aren't super familiar with. So what I'm curious of, the particular 15, and at least the 9 or so that you can talk about so far, why has the choice been made to include the characters that you are including so far?
Well, in the case of Nova and Phyla-Vell, like our game is inspired by the Annihilation storyline from 2005. So, and they are key players in that story. So that's why they're in there. But it's also because I love Nova ever since I was a kid. I knew about Spider-Man from cartoons, but I sort of read Nova's adventures first. So I wanted him to have in the game because he has also, we have that 90s flavor, and he has sort of a space Power Ranger flair to him that I really enjoy. And we gave him his 90s mullet, but his 90s mullet also looks like a Kamen Rider scarf. So to me, that was really striking, and it felt like it would be a cool character to have in a beat 'em up. A character like Phyla-Vell is lesser known. She has her fans out there, but we sort of get the fun with a lesser known character the same way. If you read an Avengers run, you'll have 5 known superheroes, but then you have 5 other lesser known characters, and they are the one who get to change and have more story sauce. So for us, it's where the artists can more play and reinterpret the characters in a way. So we get to make those lesser known characters a bit more of our own, and that's exciting.
Marvel has such a deep history, right? Of course, you're always going to have your Spider-Mans, your Wolverines, but I walked by and I saw the Beetle, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen him in decades. Like, you guys really went down deep in those deep cuts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a ton of fun because with Marvel, obviously you want to have like the fan favorite, the big names, but they also want you to have characters that maybe haven't been seen in other games or other medias before, and have your own twist, like Phyla-Vell and even Nova. Apart from some like Marvel vs. Capcom games, he's not a character that we've seen much in video games, and is basically our main character because in this game. So it's always fun to bring these characters or fresh, because that's what's fun about the Marvel universe as well. Finding out and discovering new faces that you haven't seen before.
Real quick, when it comes to the characters, was there anything like, were you kind of free to just cherry pick, or were there like situations they were like
we were expecting a very rigid, very big structure. Yeah. Working with Marvel, we were expecting, a very corporate approach. They have guidelines, but they're surprisingly a small team, very responsive. So our narrative designer was like pitching like crazy ideas, and they were like just like giving us like simple guidelines.
The guideline was, we need familiar faces, like fan favorites.
Okay.
And for the rest, suggest things, and we'll approve them or not. And we were able to go and pick very niche. That comic book fans will like go, wow.
Nice.
We not only have like a crazy amount of characters in the game, but we also have a lot of content to unlock.
So like when you have unlockable content, does that mean we make it Wolverine in his blue and yellow outfit, or is that something you have to do because they're hand drawn? You have to just create another character from scratch again, and because you can't just do a skin swap, right?
We'll have character palettes in the game for sure. We had the same thing in our previous game.
So what did we learn, and how can we apply this to character speculation? It was revealed that the game would have 15 levels and 15 bosses, and that in story mode, some of these bosses could be defeated and become playable characters. Now I have 2 different thoughts on this. One, some of the characters in the roster we've seen already in story mode will actually be mind controlled by smaller parasitic insects from the Annihilation Wave, just like we see in the beetle fight footage from Summer Games Fest. My other thought and hope is that we'll be getting 2 very popular villains as playable characters. The first villain I thought of is really a no-brainer, and probably one of X-Men's greatest characters, the Master of Magnet, Magneto. The next villain that would be totally badass to play as is a master himself of science and magic, and a ruler of his own country. Dr. Doom. Now, I'm still not quite convinced that Iron Man isn't going to make it in as a playable character, but if he didn't, I'd be okay with it as long as Dr. Doom was his replacement. Much like how Robert Downey Jr. is trading up his character in the MCU. But now that we've used up 2 slots on popular Marvel villains, it's time to speculate on the remaining 4 characters. I once again turn to the dev interviews from the Summer Games Fest for ideas or clues on who could be the final characters of this roster. We learned that Disney/Marvel gave the developers simple guidelines when it came to choosing the character roster. Marvel wanted familiar faces like fan favorites, and for the rest of the cast, it was suggested that they are lesser known characters that maybe haven't been seen in other games or media. Even characters that could be classified as niche. But how can we begin to speculate on lesser known or niche characters? That's even harder than guessing what popular characters might make it into the roster. However, Yannick might have left a bit of a clue. Yannick mentioned that in the 1990s, he'd like to read comics telling the adventures of Nova. Now, Nova had his own comic book series, but like many superheroes, Nova was part of a larger team, the New Warriors. Now, I could see any one of these lesser known characters fighting alongside the likes of Nova, Spider-Man, and other more popular heroes. But I had to go with the leader of the New Warriors and the one who brought all these heroes together, Night Thrasher. Night Thrasher, aka Dwayne Taylor, inherited his parents' billion-dollar company after they were killed, and with his newfound riches, he constructed a powerful suit equipped with a plethora of gadgets in which he used to become a vigilante crime fighter. Sounds familiar? Some of his weapons include a high-tech skateboard, wrist gauntlets that can launch night staves, mini missiles, explosives, ball bearings, and spur jacks. His armor is made from a vibranium Kevlar mesh. He also has enhanced vision and jet propulsion. Combine all this with his combat stave training, gymnastics, and his mastery over multiple martial arts, I'd say he has enough under his belt to make for a fun and versatile playable character. For the next character slot, I decided to go with another member of the New Warriors, Darkhawk. Before he was Darkhawk, a young Chris Pal happened across a magical amulet that, when worn, he could control a Shi'ar Talon cybernetic armor. I imagine Darkhawk as a fast melee aerial combatant who could fly or glide. He has a Wolverine-like claw that is also a grappling hook. I could see him using this grappling hook feature while flying or on the ground to pull in enemies into a combo or other attacks. Darkhawk can also gather energy from null space to create dark energy blasts. In the later comics, Darkhawk becomes less of a street hero and more of a cosmic one. In the Annihilation Scourge Omega comics, Darkhawk learns how to create a drone Eagle Scout. It would be cool to give him a summon ability in this game, where he summons an Eagle Scout to help him with attacks. I believe a quick aerial combat character like Darkhawk would be a blast to play. Okay, so moving on to the final 2 slots for the last lesser known characters. I tried to pick characters that I thought stood out visually and added variety to the gameplay, but also felt like they belonged with the rest of the cast. First up is a mighty champion who protects the Corbinites and is worthy of wielding Mjolnir. We're talking Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray is a cybernetically enhanced Corbinite warrior mixed with the DNA of a fierce creature. When Thor first confronts Bill, it is discovered that Bill can lift his hammer and is worthy of all the power of Thor. Because both Thor and Beta Ray Bill are proven to be equals, Odin commissions a new hammer for Beta Ray Bill, the Stormbreaker. Beta Ray Bill would play very much like how you'd imagine Thor would play in this game. He'd have hammer flight, a hammer toss, be able to summon lightning bolts. Maybe he could strike and charge up Stormbreaker for a lightning-infused attack. Now don't get me wrong, I would love to see Thor included in this game, but I feel that Beta Ray Bill is a slightly more interesting character to have on the roster. Last, but certainly not least, we have a brilliant scientist turned monster, the horrific Man-Thing. Theodore Saus was a biochemist working with S.H.I.E.L.D. to recreate the super soldier serum used on Captain America. Sabotaged and on the run from AIM, he had no choice but to inject himself. Shortly after, in an automobile accident, he crashed into the Everglades of a mystical swamp containing the magical nexus of all realities, and transforming him into Man-Thing. I imagine Man-Thing to be able to shoot out tendrils to attack enemies from afar, and form blades or blunt weapons out of plant matter when he gets in close. One idea to make Man-Thing feel uniquely different from other characters is to give him no knockback. He would take damage like any other character, but he would never be knocked down and could slowly walk forward, continuing to attack. He'd be slower than other characters, but more powerful. Also, his grabs would cause enemies to burst into flames to represent his burning hands touch from the comics. For mobility, he could sprout wings, leaping into the air and slowly glide over the action. And for a little bit of control, Man-Thing could grow vines from the ground to trap enemies. So that's gonna do it for Speculation Round 3 of Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Be sure to let me know if there's any lesser known or niche characters you'd like to see included in this game, bosses you'd like to face off against, bosses you'd like to see playable, or any other characters you think deserve a slot in Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.